All right, so I chose a problem from the tic-tac-toe homework that we could work through as an example. And thinking of Owen and its music, I chose the one about the concert. And so when we're dealing with these problems, we are always dealing with a percentage, and we're going to be dealing with a situation, which is actually just a really fancy way of saying a ratio. And we're going to be dealing with them as an equivalent ratio, or in this case, a proportion. Excuse my handwriting here. So we're going to have a percent, and we're always going to have a situation, and they're going to be written as actual fractions here. Now, when I read this problem, the first thing that I have the kids do is read the problem, underline important information, and then identify the question and write a number sentence, because it helps you stay focused on your answer. So I'm going to read and underline as I go. A concert venue sells 16% of its tickets as reserved seats. I feel like the reserved seats are very important. An upcoming concert sells 8,000 tickets. How many tickets are reserved? So the first thing I'm actually going to identify here is the question. How many tickets are going to be reserved? Since it's asking me how many, I know I'm going to have a number and not a percent. And so I write my number sentence, blank tickets are reserved, because that helps me stay focused on what I'm looking for here. Now, when I see that the concert venue sells 16% of its tickets as reserved seats, I have to think to myself, if 16% of the tickets are reserved, that means that the venue also sells unreserved seats. That being said, 16% actually represents the amount, which is the part, which is why we write it as the numerator. 16% is the part of the seats that are reserved. And we know that all percentages, which are right here, are always, no matter what, over 100. So I have my percentage, 16% over 100, and I like to label, to keep me organized, that this is reserved. And these are the total tickets. Oh my gosh, my finger handwriting on the smartboard is not very good. Finger tickets, or total tickets, oh my goodness. Okay. Anyways, from there I know that both of these are going to be equal to each other. It's a proportion. So from there I'm going to keep reading, and since I did my percentage, I know I get to move on to my situation now. I know that an upcoming concert sells 8,000 tickets. Now, it doesn't tell me if they just sold 8,000 tickets that are reserved or unreserved. It's saying that the whole show show sold 8,000 tickets. That being said, I know that wholes always go in the denominator, meaning that 8,000 tickets were sold, which is the same thing as saying 100% of the tickets were sold, are 8,000 tickets. So that's why it goes into the whole section. Now from there, the question's asking me how many tickets are reserved. Since reserved is in the numerator up here, I know that this, whatever I get for this answer, is going to be how many tickets are actually reserved for this show. Now, I have the option to simplify this fraction here. I could bring it down to 8/50ths, and from there I could bring it down to 4/25ths. However, this is when I get to use my mathematical reasoning and be like, wait, I need to figure out how I get from here to here. And reducing it, or simplifying it, I should say, to 25 would make my life harder. However, I can look right here and be like, oh my goodness, I know that 100 times 80 is going to, so times 80, why is that red and black? Okay, is going to give me 8,000. And I know that what I do to one side of a ratio to keep it equivalent, I have to always do to the other. So I know I need to multiply 80 by 16. And to make my life easy, I'm going to do it this way. So I can just put my 0 placeholder here and then move 6 times 8, 48. And I know that my answer is going to be 1,280. That being said, my actual answer is going to be 1,280. I will say that sometimes these questions will be tricky and they'll ask you how many are unreserved but only give you the reserved seats. So then you have to do some additional subtraction or addition, and it's so important to make sure that you read these problems carefully. However, if you always start these problems out figuring out what your percent is, and if you always start these problems out figuring out what your situation is and write them as an equal proportion to each other, then you have gotten started. Some guiding questions that I've used in today's math lesson is, I wanted to actually write them down, that you can ask to help guide you during this time is, aside from what is my percentage, what is my situation, what has been really helpful is saying to yourself, what is the part in this problem? And what is the whole? The part always goes in the numerator, and the whole always goes in the denominator, and that should help guide you. 100%, so 100 is always the whole in the percent, because no matter what, percents are always over 100. But what makes it tricky is figuring out what the whole is in the situation. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you're able to conquer the homework tonight. Good luck with everything.